Hello, everybody. It's midterms. Let us kick this course off right. There are a few things that we know we must complete, right? You know that you have to work on anything that you're missing, your knowledge checks, your any apply and reflections that you haven't done, catch up on your feedbacks. Why? Because this week is midterms. Now, for this week's discussion forum, what is your favorite piece of technology that you own and what makes it your favorite piece? One of the things that I really enjoy is my Apple Watch. It really helps to kind of keep me focused when my activity level is low. I'm able to be like, okay, Teresa, you need to jump up and do a little bit more. All right. So let's share what our favorite pieces of technology is. And if you don't have any, let us know why. All right. Now, before we stroll down memory lane, we look at our math trivia question. And who invented zero? And I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Brahmagupta. I hope I said that correctly. And then math, the only place where you can buy 64 watermelons and no one wonders why. Tell me that's not accurate. Okay, now let's begin our stroll down memory lane. We start off in chapter 1, where we looked at the introduction to health statistics, where we looked at recommended health statistics. We accessed the sources of data. We compared and contrasted between data and information. We also looked at validity and reliability. We talked about descriptive and inferential statistics. And then we looked at which one is our primary sources of data as opposed to our secondary data sources. We finished up chapter 1, determining the users of healthcare statistics. So finding out what individuals are actually using this information that we are providing, right? In chapter 2, we were doing a basic mathematic review, calculating decimals, right? Looking at ratios, proportions, percentages, just a huge review. We rounded whole numbers and decimals. We also determined the proper conversion of fractions and decimals to percentage and looking at the average and the mean. So it was a real basic mathematical review. Now, chapter 3 was a little bit different because career services came in. And this week, you were required to kind of do a lot of reading on your own. And it had to do with patient census, which is really important in the hospital setting. Now, here, hopefully, you had a good understanding on how to perform calculations that help healthcare utilizations, whether it's inpatient admissions, inpatient census, looking at the complete master census, your daily inpatient census. You also looked at inter-hospital, inter-facility, meaning you're transferring a patient from one department to another department, as opposed to intra-hospital. Now, that's a whole different thing because you're going from one hospital to another healthcare facility all together. Chapter 3 finished up looking at calculating census and inpatient service days with data given for newborns and transfers. This brought us to chapter 4, inpatient bed occupancy. Here, you're determining the beds that are included in a bed count. You're also looking at how to get that percentage of bed occupancy. We looked at direct and indirect bed turnover, as well as getting those percentages for occupancy for a period when there has been a change in the number of beds during a particular period. Last week, we dealt with chapter 5, which was length of stay. Here, we analyze the length of stay for adults, for children, and newborns. We assess the total length of stay for a group of discharged patients, and then we had to interpret the relationship between the length of stay and utilization management. Now, these are the chapters that are going to be on this particular midterm. So this was just a stroll down memory lane. Now, before we even get into our review, I have to remind everyone on academic integrity. When you are taking your midterm, please make sure that you're not going to any other sites, visiting anything, even clicking away for a second, because it is being tracked. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it can be extremely detrimental to your academic success. Now, I always like to have the meaning of academic integrity. This is the expectation that your facilitators, your teachers, your coaches, your students, US students, researchers, and all members of the academic community act with honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and have some type of responsibility for our trade in academia. So let's review. Okay, the midterm, 40 questions. You have 1 hour to complete. You have a couple of true and false questions. You're going to do a lot of calculations, all right? You also need to understand certain agencies, your AHRQ, your CMS, your MCO, the CDC. You need to understand how to calculate inpatient service days, calculating proportions like we did in chapter 2. You're going to need to differentiate between total length of stay, utilization management, UM, and military time. Understand consistent, competence, validity, and reliability. Read up on the different types of statistics. Going back to week 2, you're going to have to understand decimals and ratios and quotients and fractions. You're going to have to also calculate in-service days, occupancy rate, as well as bed occupancy rate. And you're going to need to understand what is a primary and secondary data. Now, keep in mind, this is just a guide to kind of lead you in the correct direction. Continue to read up on your chapters, go back and just brush up on any knowledge checks. All of these are going to definitely prepare you for this midterm. Now, midterm reviews are actually pretty quick. Why? Because I really want y'all to be able to take this time to really prepare for your midterm. There's a lot of material, right? And you want to make sure that you're in the right mindset when you're about to take this particular exam. Now, we are at week 5. We are in, I feel, hyper speed. Before you know it, it's going to be 2023. Before then, we're going to be done with this particular module. Everyone who is watching this particular playback, what is your favorite piece of technology that you own? And what makes it your favorite? Now, if you don't have a favorite piece of technology, that's okay too. Tell us why you don't. And if you did want one, what would you get? Your math trivia was who invented the zero. And I had a hard time pronouncing that name earlier. It was Brahmagupta. And then remember that math is the only place people can buy 64 watermelons and no one wonders why. Like, what? We went over our chapter review where we strolled down memory lane. We didn't really have any poll questions because you've got your midterm this week. And this is the wrap up. Miss True, what questions do you have for me? Not trying to put you on the spot, but what questions do you have for me? And thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. I don't really have any right now.
Okay.
It's been oh okay. I'm gonna say okay.
All right. Well, if something does come up, please don't hesitate to reach out. And that's for everyone watching the live session as well. With that, go study, go relax, go rest. And I will see everyone who can make it next week for week 6 live session. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.